Module 4 learning, we have the progression of learning theories over time. So we have a seed here, and the seed sprouting is symbolic of the progression of these learning theories over time. Starting with reflex, this is an automatic and voluntary reaction to a stimulus. In this image, as you can see, there's a hammer tapping the knee, and the leg kicks out without conscious thought. That's reflex, and an instinct is an inborn pattern of behavior. So in this image here, it's a baby sucking on a pacifier, and this sucking response happens naturally without needing to be learned. Moving on to habituation, it's a response which decreases after repeated exposure to a stimulus. So in this visual here, there's a person ignoring the clock that's ticking over its head because the brain learns that it's not important. In contrast, sensitization is a response to repeated exposure and getting irritated to the stimulant. So a dripping tap, or for me, chewing noises is what would cause this reaction. Moving on to classical conditioning, best illustrated by Pavlov's dog. So this is where a neutral stimulus, which is a bell, becomes linked with a natural stimulus and begins to trigger a response. So the unconditioned stimulus is the food, and this is the unconditioned response, which is the dog salivating. When the bell repeatedly is paired with the food, the bell becomes the conditioned stimulus. So that's pairing the food with the bell here, and the dog is salivating. Then once the bell is presented later on, it becomes a conditioned stimulus, and the dog presents the conditioned response, which is salivating to the bell. In this next section, we have the Skinner box, which is operant conditioning, an example. This is when a rat learns to pull a lever to receive food. So that's pulling the lever here, getting food, that's its reward, and that reinforces the behavior. Reinforcement here increases behavior. So in the visual, it's praise. Positive reinforcement adds to something pleasant and strengthens the behavior. Punishment decreases behavior. In this image, it's a scolding. So the unpleasant consequence reduces the likelihood of the behavior occurring again. Moving on to cognitive and observational learning here. Insight learning is shown through Kohler's chimpanzee experiment. Insight learning is the sudden realization of a solution. So in this experiment here, the chimp is trying to reach the fruit. After pausing and thinking, they joined sticks together or stacked boxes to reach it. The solution appeared suddenly, not through gradual trial and error, but through mentally visualizing the problem and solution. Latent learning is illustrated by rats navigating mazes without rewards. The rats formed cognitive maps of the maze, but did not demonstrate what they had learned until a reward was introduced, so that's the cheese here. Finally, observational learning is demonstrated in the Bobo doll experiment. Children watched adults behave aggressively towards a doll and later imitated that behavior. When the adult model was punished, children were less likely to copy the aggression. This shows that behavior can be learned simply by observing others and noticing the consequences they receive.